The nicer you have to be to me. You have to do whatever I say. And that's the reason why I decided to use my own money, because they would try to give me money but tell me what to do. I'm going to tell you something in business. Stop talking.
When you throw wild debt, wilder chaos, and the most unbothered ego into the same pot, you end up with a mess like the one we're unpacking today. Listen to this, because it gets even more ridiculous as we go.
We have a real conversation, right?
Okay, go ahead. But then you can't tell me I'm lying and I'm not. You can't tell me I'm...
I don't think you're lying. I just think you broke.
All right, cool. I just think you're gay.
That's cool.
I know you're gay.
We're going to throw in so time.
That's not... Why is it... Oh, see, that's gay.
What you said?
When it comes to professional crash-outs in hip-hop, the roster is surprisingly long. From 6ix9ine's clownish theatrics to Diddy's signature Diddiness, the game is packed with wild characters. Yet almost nobody has a crash-out legacy as loud and long-running as Dame Dash. Dame has recently become infamous for whining his way through interviews, but the truth is, he's been on this trajectory his entire career. From barking on business partners to blowing up on air, Dame has built a reputation for being combative, stubborn, and volatile with anyone in striking distance. And that's exactly why today we're breaking down Dame Dash's history, his wins, his L's, and how he ended up crowned hip-hop's king of the crash-out. Listen to this. Who has Dame been beefing with for over 20 years straight? And how did his personal life spiral into a full-blown nightmare? Plus, how did all those interview rants come back to bite him worse than he expected? My name is Pancho, host of Rap Lore, and we're about to unravel it all right now. First, toast to Jay-Z, to Biggs, to life, to friendship, and of course, to Rockefeller. Damon Anthony Dash was born on May 3, 1971 in Harlem, where he was primarily raised by his mother. And if you know anything about Harlem in the 70s, then girl, you know it was no playground. As jobs fled the neighborhood, poverty spiked, and crime and gangs took over entire blocks. That environment shaped Dame early, sharpening his instinct, hustle, and natural entrepreneurial grind. As a teenager, he applied those street skills, dropped out of high school, and dove straight into hip-hop. His fascination with rap really kicked off in the late 80s after a chance meeting with a then up-and-coming Jay-Z, who would go on to become both a rapper and a billionaire mogul. The two connected over business ideas and strategy, and by 1995, those ideas turned into reality with the creation of Rockefeller Records. Rockefeller was built specifically to launch Jay-Z's rap career, mainly because no major label wanted to take a risk on him at the time. The label had 3 partners, Jay-Z as the talent, Kareem Biggs as the plug, and Dame Dash as the strategist. Dame handled contracts, negotiations, and the messy business behind the scenes, while also managing the artists directly. And listen, Dame was incredible at that job. Not only could he spot talent, he knew how to shape it into something the culture would crave. Rockefeller's roster eventually included Kanye, Cameron, Beanie Siegel, Freeway, and a whole lineup of future legends who thrived under Dame's blueprint. The success was so powerful that Dame and Jay used Rockefeller as a launchpad into other lanes. In 1999, they rolled out Rockaware, a streetwear brand that printed money selling hip-hop clothing and accessories. Then in 2002, Dame crashed into the movie world with Dame Dash Studios, pushing out cult classics like Paid in Full, State Property, and a bunch more. At that point, it looked like anything Dame touched turned to gold. But hold up, like most things in this industry, the surface didn't tell the whole story. Dame had a gift for winning negotiations and getting outcomes on his terms, but the tactics he used started turning into a liability. Dame wasn't just tough, he was brutally aggressive. And endless examples are going back to his early days. One of the wildest moments was when he publicly belittled 300 Entertainment CEO Kevin Liles right there in a barbershop.
Y'all niggas are too fucking professional and you're too smart to make these kind of dumbass mistakes.
Or the time Dame spazzed on all of Def Jam for holding a meeting about Jay-Z without him.
You're not a leader. You don't know shit about my culture. Get the fuck out. You don't know shit about...
Or take the time he's literally screaming at full volume in a Def Jam hallway at an employee named Randy Acker. Fix your mouth. respect the culture. It turned into a whole lecture about environment, respect, and how Randy allegedly didn't know what he was talking about. Things got so hectic that there's an actual story of Rockefeller meetings being moved into hotel rooms just so staff wouldn't hear Dame going off. That's some next-level unhinged behavior. Dame's intensity created real fractures between him and Jay, to the point where Jay started questioning the entire partnership. On top of that, Dame and Jay just did not agree on the future of Rockefeller. Jay wanted a polished corporate label that played ball with the industry, while Dame wanted to keep everything rough, independent, and straight from the block. Then in 2004, Jay had a chance to merge Rockefeller with Def Jam, a move that would give way more reach, more connections, and more power. Dame fought hard against it, but the deal still went through behind his back, and Jay took a seat as Def Jam's president. And that's when everything truly unraveled. With Jay-Z running Def Jam and Rockefeller now under the same roof, Jay was effectively the sole captain of the ship. Dame's position evaporated overnight. If Jay wanted something done, he just did it. That pushed Dame and Biggs out of the ecosystem entirely, and Dame did not take that lightly. But to make things even worse, something in the following years would push Dame into full-on vengeance mode. Even without Rockefeller, Dame was still a co-founder and part owner of Rockaware, the clothing label printing money. Jay decided he wanted to cash out his stake, but the way he did it was wild, petty, brilliant, depends on how you frame it. Jay knew that if he sold normally, Dame would be entitled to half the bag, since they both legally co-owned Rockefeller, the entity in which Rockaware's IP was housed. To avoid that, Jay quietly arranged for Rockaware's trademark and IP to be held under him personally, not the label as a whole. So in 2007, when he sold Rockaware's IP to Iconic's brand group, he sold the part he owned, not the operational business Dame still had paper on. The price? $24 million, and Dame didn't see a single dollar. That one maneuver sent Dame into a decade-plus grudge that's still active today. And listen, people clown Dame for holding a grudge, but for that kind of money, I don't know how fast you'd let it go either.
I got warrants out for my arrest, and for things that don't make sense. Well, you know, for child support.
Regardless of whether Jay was right or wrong in that whole situation, one thing was clear. It was the beginning of Dame's downfall. At that point, all of Dame's cash cows had vanished. He was pushed out of Rockefeller, and whatever ownership he had in Rockaware was basically useless. He was also juggling other ventures like Prokeds, Armadale Vodka, America Magazine, and Dash Films. Plus, he tried running his own label, Dame Dash Music Group, built around the original ethos that Rockefeller once had. But none of it hit, and each venture slowly faded into nothing. This left Dame drowning in financial trouble, and by 2008, the mask came off, and everyone could see just how ugly the situation was. Dame got hit with lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. First, he couldn't keep up with property expenses, which led to multiple foreclosures, including a $7 million Tribeca condo. Meanwhile, his fashion ventures were tanking, triggering lawsuits from former partners over unpaid debts. And that same year, he launched into a bitter, messy divorce from his ex-wife, Rachel Roy. And if that name rings a bell, she's the alleged Becky with the good hair Beyoncé referenced in Sorry during the Jay-Z cheating scandal. Connecting the dots, Rachel Roy was Dame's ex-wife, and Jay-Z slept with her. If Jay ever disappeared under mysterious circumstances, Dame would be suspect number one. Anyway, Rachel filed for divorce, citing crippling debt and emotional and verbal abuse. And considering Dame's Def Jam hallway behavior, it's sadly not difficult to believe. To make matters worse, Rachel's fashion brand, Rachel Roy, was thriving, a sharp contrast to Dame's financial freefall. Their divorce spiraled into years of custody battles, endless legal fees, and eventually brutal child support numbers that nuked Dame's bank account. By 2011, reports revealed Dame owed hundreds of thousands in unpaid child support, and the lawsuits kept rolling in like a conveyor belt. There are so many lawsuits I have to rapid fire them, and I'll probably still miss a few. In 2012, rapper Currency sued Dame for $1.5 million, claiming Dash and DD172 released his music without authorization. After 3 years of back and forth, they finally settled for an undisclosed amount, though some reports pegged it at nearly $3 million. In 2013, the IRS filed a federal tax lien against Dame over unpaid taxes from 2005 to 2011. The lien was roughly $2.8 million, and spoiler, that number only went up. In 2014, Linda Williams, the mother of Dame's son Boogie, sued him for $1 million, alleging he fabricated custody claims that had her arrested back in 2009. That case ended with Dame paying $50,000 and a bizarre moment outside a New York courthouse where he verbally tore into a pack of Daily Mail reporters. In 2019, filmmaker Joshua Weber sued Dame for defamation and copyright infringement over the film Dear Frank. Weber claimed that after Dame was removed from the project, he tried to continue making the movie anyway. A judge hit Dame with a $75,400 judgment plus attorney fees. But that wasn't enough, because Weber doubled back to hammer the defamation claim, leading to yet another judgment, this time for $4 million. Also in 2019, Dame was arrested in New York for owing $400,000 in child support to 2 different mothers. He eventually paid around $1 million to walk free. Insane. And yes, still 2019, it was a nightmare year. Author Idana Brooks sued Dame, accusing him of marketing and selling a film based on her Mafia series without her permission. That resulted in around $300,000 in damages. But it didn't stop there. In 2024, Brooks sued again, alleging Dame was hiding assets and dodging payments. The judge ruled in her favor, ordering Dame to liquidate assets to cover what he owed. It's just never ending with this man. I don't even know if that's the full list, but at this point, you get the picture.
The nicer you have to be to me. You have to do whatever I say. And that's the reason why I decided to use my own money, because they would try to give me money but tell me what to do. I'm going to tell you something in business.
Stop talking. As long as I'm paying the loan back, it's not a problem.
Now, to be fair, that level of financial pressure would break even the calmest person alive. It would have been totally reasonable for Dame to take a step back, reset, and figure out a smarter path forward. But that is not what happened. Instead of regrouping, Dame went on a multi-year spree of public crashes and self-inflicted humiliation. Dame's public meltdown kicked off in 2015 with filmmaker Lee Daniels. Back in the late 2000s, Dame invested roughly $2 million into a Lee Daniels film project, essentially a loan. Lee never paid Dame back, so Dame sued in 2012. In 2016, a New York court ruled in Dame's favor, ordering Lee to repay him with interest, and that should have wrapped it up. But Lee dragged his feet, and Dame was furious. Listen, Dame responded by trashing Lee's character in interviews, and even pulled up on him during what looked like a church service, publicly scolding him from the seats. And honestly, if someone owed me $2 million, I can't say I wouldn't be right there yelling too. Either way, this was the first time the public started seeing the crash-out behavior that used to happen behind closed doors. The second major crash came during Dame's 2015 Breakfast Club interview. What should have been a mature hip-hop conversation turned into a petty, heated face-off almost instantly. Dame spent most of the interview preaching about being a boss and how real men move, unintentionally making himself look like the most insecure dude in the room. He also clowned the Breakfast Club host for being employees, which, a decade later, DJ Envy told Vlad TV was corny and disingenuous. This was just the first of many embarrassing media moments Dame would stack over the next decade. Across platforms like No Jumper, 92.3 LA Radio, Dr. Boyce Breakdown, Ugly Money Podcast, and The Art of Dialogue, Dame came off hostile, belittling, tone-deaf. Pick a negative adjective, it applied, especially when Jay-Z's name got brought up. And side note, one hilarious detail from the No Jumper appearance, Dame allegedly asked Adam for $500 to cover his driver and his haircut. Interesting request for a bald man, but we move. These media runs tanked his legacy more than going broke ever could. Financial losses hurt your wallet, but public bitterness makes people stop taking you seriously. But still, none of the interviews topped his most recent Breakfast Club appearance. On September 16th, just a week after filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Florida for owing $25 million in taxes, yes, you heard that right, Dame returned to the Breakfast Club to defend his value and philosophy, and it was, in my opinion, one of the cringiest interviews in hip-hop history. Highlights included Dame scrambling for explanations to justify the mountain of debt, Dame complaining about being interrupted while refusing to let anyone else finish a sentence, roasting the Breakfast Club building for not having windows while his own properties had been foreclosed, a little ironic, and bragging about being chairman of Revolt TV during an acquisition, only for Revolt to publicly deny he had any position there days later. He also directed a ton of smoke at Charlemagne, calling him gay, unmasculine, a bad influence on black men, and even threatening to punch him live on camera. Charlemagne, though, had A-tier comebacks, calling Dame Debt Dash, suggesting he start a label called Debt Jam, and telling Dame he used to know Jay-Z, not that he currently does. Absolute masterclass shade. The interview was so bad that Dame threatened to sue the Breakfast Club to get it taken down, but considering it's still up, that clearly didn't work. And to cap the era off, on December 8, 2025, the Breakfast Club announced Dame's belongings and assets were being auctioned off with a minimum bid of $300,000. Now, as tempting as it is to just laugh and scrawl, there are real lessons buried in Dame's downfall. Number 1, get everything in writing. A lot of Dame's legal problems came from his operating on loyalty and street codes, while the industry operated on contracts and paperwork. The courts don't care about street morals, they care about signatures. Number 2, don't make yourself the hostile, irrational guy in business. If Dame was easier to work with, it's highly unlikely Jay would have moved the way he moved. The ego and aggression made removing him from the equation the logical business play. And lastly, no matter what you're going through, do not take it to the internet. It will make you look foolish 100% of the time. And that's why, in my opinion, Dame Dash holds the crown for hip-hop's biggest crash out. If you agree or disagree, drop it in the comments, and definitely stay locked in. More rap lore on the way.